guys, how you doing? So today we're talking all about Sony lenses, and back in my studio here, did a little bit interior decorating, and anyways, here I got my brother. My brother is in Toronto right now, so he's on Skype. So let me just which channel is it on? I'm like operating everything myself. Here, Lucas, you're on.
Hi guys, hi everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, hello.
And yeah, so anyways, we're back here, and we're what do you call it? We're ready to do the show with you guys. And today I'm going to talk about all about lenses. I've got some lenses here. These are lenses for Sony cameras, more specifically, and to be even more exact, lenses. I mean, I'm going to talk about all Sony lenses, but I want to talk about, I guess, primarily lenses that I care about, which is for cameras, basically DSLMs, Sony DSLMs that are basically APS-C size sensor, because that's majority of the times with kind of filming that I do, and I can get into that afterwards, why and all that stuff. Or if you guys are interested in asking questions, I guess, about why I go that route. Let me just here, let's see, you know, while we're waiting for everybody to join in, let me know who's already online, where you guys are from. Maybe Lucas, you can see who's joining over there. And here, just hopefully everything is good. Hopefully you guys can hear us okay, because I'm kind of I've been kind of running all over the place today, trying to doing a new setup here a little bit, as you can see on the couch, and also just doing a bunch of other little projects basically in the meantime behind, which was, like I said, causing a slight delay today. Anyways, but we're here, so yeah, let us know where you guys are joining, and then we can maybe take it away. Maybe Lucas, you wanna kind of talk about today what we're doing?
You want to start some questions here with some questions? Any giveaways? People are asking. We've been talking about those sliders, so I'm
yeah,
to figure out
we're gonna do the slider.
How we're going to give out those sliders.
We're just probably gonna do a video about the sliders and say, okay, who's up for it? Just leave a comment or something, I think, right?
Oh, okay.
I don't know, unless you have a better idea. I don't want to do like a contest or anything. It's just a simple giveaway.
Right.
So that we'll have some other things where maybe we can do as a contest, like with some other even bigger prizes. But for that kind of stuff, I think it's okay to just go simple. Anything else? Any other questions other than the giveaways?
A7S2 or GH5?
Oh, A7S2 or GH5.
Let me ask you.
It's interesting.
Do you think I know you've been really liked A7S2 when we shot it with it the Never Broken music video, but now you've got the Sony A6500. I mean, which one would you? I guess you opted for the A6500. Are you regretting that, or how does that compare to the A7S2? And maybe which of the two is better, and how do they compare to the GH5?
How do they compare to the GH5? Well, I mean, I'll tell you this. I love the A7S2. I do. And there's, you know, I think full frame creates a nice look. You can really get that really shallow depth of field. And so, yeah, there's a lot of great features about the Sony A7S2, and especially when you consider how old the camera already is now. It's like, I guess, almost 3 years now, right? Since it came out. It's got a lot of really cool features. To me, though, I guess, well, two things were, I would say, biggest one is the price. I was looking for something that is, you know, I guess the most cost-effective. So, like, when I was looking right now for an extra camera, and that's the reason why, you know, I went with this camera, because it's. I mean, you can get the camera. How much is it right now, actually, Lucas? If you got just the camera itself.
Sorry, which camera?
The A6500.
Ooh, let me just double check here right now on VNH.
I believe, because I mean, I got the whole kit
VNH has it for $1,400 body only, but like if you throw in a thing, it's like usually, when you bought it, it was like another $250 for those two kit lenses, right?
$1,600, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying, is that it's this thing is you know, price-wise, it's a lot better. Now Sony A7S2, you can buy it used. You might even be able to buy it for a very similar price, but new one is actually, well, what is the price still? Because I know they were lowering the prices, but I don't think they lowered the prices on all the Sony cameras, right? Maybe Lucas, you can check for us again.
Let me check.
A7S II.
Right now, $200 discount. It's for $2,600.
Yeah.
US.
So you can see basically it's over $1,000, right? And that's a big, that's a big deciding factor, right? When you think about it. When you think about buying a new camera, some piece of gear or something. So that's obviously something to consider, and that's one of the, I would say, the biggest reasons why I went with this camera. If the A7S II was the same price, I might have probably gone, with that camera. Now, another thing I do like about it is that it is a little bit smaller, this thing, and the in-body image stabilization and autofocus. I haven't done actually tests side by side, so I can't say that 100%. But from what I heard on the internet, and you don't always hear truth on the internet, but the people who did do some videos or kind of comparisons between A6500 and A7S II said that this camera has some slight improvements in the AF and things like that. Not a big difference, but it has some slight improvements. I'll tell you, I loved the Sony A7S II, like the autofocus performance. I shot a music video, kind of run and gun, with the gimbal for Anna Sizen called what was the title of the song? God, I forgot now.
Never Broken.
Never Broken, yes. And you guys can check that out. It's on my YouTube channel. And also on Adorama TV, there's like an extensive 3-part behind the scenes about it, how we shot it and all that stuff. So you guys can check that out. And the Sony A7S II performed amazingly in that, and it was an amazing camera for that. But now having been basically playing around with this camera, I can honestly say that I think I could have done the same job, if not maybe slightly better, with this camera had it been available, back in the day when I was shooting that music video. So that's I mean, I'll tell you, those are the two main factors: the size, I would say, and the price. Right? It's smaller, both in the size and the price. So that's the reason why I got it. GH5, on the other hand, is a whole other beast. It's a different mount. It's the Micro Four Thirds. It is a lot smaller. Like, I'll tell you this: many times people wonder why I would go with an APS-C size sensor versus a full frame sensor, like on the Sony A7S II. The full frame, it's nice. Like I said, creates a nice look, but it's not really something that's necessary. And I don't always want very, very shallow depth of field. I think APS-C size creates cinematic depth of field if you got fast lenses, because that's actually the size that motion pictures really, like red cameras and airy cameras, all of them pretty much. Now there's some that have bigger sensors slightly, but or throughout history, when you're looking at films that were actually shot on film, celluloid, they were shot with that size image sensor. So the depth of field looks like that, right? Like those classic films. So I don't think you need to go full frame if you want your films or music videos, whatever, to have that same, I guess, depth of field. If you want to have exaggerated depth of field, and if you really like, those kind of getting those, let's say, wide angles, then that's when it's a lot more useful, I guess, having a full frame camera. But that's also where a good set of lenses comes in, and that's kind of why we're doing this video, is kind of talking about the lenses. Micro Four Thirds, it's a little bit limited, obviously, on the wider range, so that's why GH5, as great as it is, it's a much better video camera, I would say, than this or even Sony A7S II. But has nicer slow motion, 10-bit it records now internally, like all these cool things. Really good, for example, you can get an audio module for it that has proper audio connections. So all these things, menus are amazing. But the Micro Four Thirds, I know, is a factor, reason why many people will not go with it. And it's, for me, I mean, I've shot a feature film on the GH4, actually, which was Micro Four Thirds. But yeah, I mean, to be honest, if you're shooting on longer lenses and you want to be able to like punch in and zoom in more, then I think Micro Four Thirds is actually better. If you want to get more wider angle lenses, then that's where, you could say having a full frame or an APS-C size sensor camera is going to be better for you. Now, if you have a full frame or APS-C size camera, I mean, you can always, I guess, go tighter just by getting a longer lens. You can't kind of do that when you're on a Micro Four Thirds cameras. You can go tighter, but if you, let's say, want to suddenly go really wide, well, there's only so wide, like as wide as you can get, basically, because of the limitations of the image sensor. So that's why I would say GH5 is kind of, it's like a whole other thing, right? It doesn't really compare to this. Anyways, when it comes to lenses itself, maybe here, look at it. I can show you guys what lenses I have here. So my lenses these are the lenses that I got basically with the camera. So it's the main one, and this is one that you're probably gonna get on a lot of the kits. Is this one here, which is the what is it? A 16 to 15 millimeter. Now it's not a fast lens by any means, so that's one thing to consider, obviously. Also, it's not what do you call it? It's, well, I mean, some people say it's not the sharpest. I mean, it is what it is. It's, yeah, definitely, if you compare it to like proper cinema lenses and stuff, yeah, it might not be the sharpest, but otherwise, yeah, it's pretty damn good. You know, I would say, like, for shooting 4K video, I would say it's pretty good, sufficient for what you need. The reason why I got it is, first of all, you know, if you're buying, it's your most, you know, I guess true for in most cases, when you buy a kit lens directly with the camera, basically as a kit, you're gonna pay a lot less. Whereas if you were to buy this separately, it's gonna cost you a lot more. And actually, how much are the prices actually, Lucas, for the 16 to 50 millimeter? And by the way, we have
just bought it on its own.
Yeah, we have the links, by the way, for all of these lenses that we're talking about today in the description of the video, so you guys can check it out. I guess the latest prices and stuff, because they do always change. But let me go actually here and let's click one of
on its own. It's $350.
Yeah, see,
the short zoom.
Yeah, so it makes a big difference. Whereas if you bought it as a kit lens, it costs you like less than
$100, like more, or even depending. Like there's one right now, a kit with just that lens, the short zoom lens, and it's $100 more.
Oh, okay. So yeah, so as you can see, that's the cool thing about, you know, buying these kind of kit lenses. The reason why I love this lens, and that's why I would say if you're getting into Sony cameras, and obviously this is going to be, you know, it's going to be different maybe if you're shooting on the Sony A7S II or any of the basically Sony full frame cameras, then maybe that's not the lens for you to go with because it's not full frame. But if you're not shooting full frame, or let's say you're shooting on the A7S II, but for example, like a lot of people are doing, you're still using the cropped-in image sensor to kind of minimize the rolling shutter, then I would say that it's a really, really, you know, I would say a great lens for beginners, but just overall just a great lens. And there's a few reasons for it. I mean, I don't know, maybe.
Tom.
Yeah.
Can you cut back to you? We seeing your sexy leg and so on, but
okay.
Maybe we get to get back to seeing your face.
This one, who I know.
You were saying that a split screen would be nice.
I know.
Mike Albanese.
Nice.
Says that a split screen would be nice. That would be a good idea.
Unfortunately, we don't have split screen right now. We're not that high tech, not yet. But yeah, so I would say, like I said, with this kit lens is just great to have because it's, like I said, it doesn't cost you that much more to get as a kit, but the next thing is that it's just it's a great all-around lens, whether you're a beginner or even, like I said, if you're shooting like this is my go-to lens when I'm shooting with any of the Sony cameras, whether it's 6500, 6300, whatever, and I'm basically using the camera on a gimbal. Throw this up on a gimbal, and this lens is first of all tiny, as you can see, and also, you know, it's very light. When you're zooming or zooming out on the lens, it doesn't really throw off the balance on gimbals because it's not like such a big heavy lens anyways. It does extend a little bit, it goes in and out depending on how you zoom in and zoom out, but it's not a big, this doesn't make a big difference with your gimbal basically balancing. And it works amazingly well with the Sony autofocus, so that's the reason why I love this lens and why I would suggest everybody should get it. Like, even if you're just starting out and let's say you're not sure if you're going to be using this camera, you know, for professional work, or you're just experimenting as a filmmaker, maybe you're what do you call it? Maybe you want to maybe just even take some photos, right, and use this camera as like a vacation camera with your family, traveling, taking photos, videos. It's great because you can see it's compact when it's turned off. It has a nice range. 16 is pretty wide. 16 mil to you know, to 50 millimeter, which is like a perfect. I usually love using 50 mil for like portrait lenses and that kind of like portrait shots. So that's my kind of go-to focal length on an APS-C size sensor when I'm doing portraits. So it's great for that. And like I said, it's you know, sharp enough for 4K video, has great AF, and when you throw it on a gimbal, this is like a killer combination. Like if you're using one of those pistol grip, you know, gimbals, whether it's the Zunion Crane or KMTV single, or the Optimus now they have, or Moza. Right now I'm actually been testing out this camera with the Moza Air gimbal, and yeah, it just works great with all these gimbals because it's, like I said, compact lens, and very quickly, well, you know, you can get a wide angle shot. 16 mil on an APS-C sensor is pretty damn wide, and then you can punch in and be, you know, like I said, 50 millimeters. So
it's wide and it doesn't give you any like distortions, really, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty good in that sense. And let me actually here, Lucas, maybe you can see if there's any other questions. Well, I'm gonna plug in this camera here, see if we can.
Very important question.
Yeah.
Also from Mike Albanese. Is your couch itchy?
My couch is. Is
it comfortable?
No, it's very nice actually. It's I don't know how it looks on camera. Maybe it's this little pattern that it has. It's very smooth fabric, so it's not itchy at all. But it maybe has a little bit of this like a noisy look. I don't know. Let me here cut back to you, Lucas. See any other questions you have while I try to figure out here. Oh yeah, I'm gonna disconnect one cable.
Well, I mean, one thing I want to, in terms of lens, Tom, I think now next is he's going to cover the other zoom lens that comes often as a kit with the A6500, which is the 55 to, what is it, 100, I think, millimeters, and the long zoom.
It's longer,
and but another option, I guess, would be to just, if you want to get one lens, one zoom lens, is the Sony E PZ 18 to 105 millimeters.
Is that
f4? That's
like this other really popular lens, right?
Yeah, that's what don't have that one, but like we've heard so many, you know, filmmakers say that it's a really great lens, and like, you know, based on specs, you can see that it's, you know, very good range.
Yeah.
And it's a reasonable cost, $600. So I don't really see it, you know, coming out in a kit. So you might have to pay the full price, the $600. But it's a really good lens, and I guess maybe downside, or, you know, the advantage of going with those two kit lenses that Tom has is that, you know, like this longer zoom 18 to 105 it will not be as good for a gimbal, for example, because it's a bit narrower, it doesn't go as wide, and it's heavier, longer. So maybe that's one situation where, you know, having that shorter zoom lens would be better. But yeah, I mean, that's a really good. If you want to get like one lens, I would say get for your Sony camera, for APS-C, right? And the Sony E PZ or PZ 18 to 105 f4 is a really good lens.
Yeah.
And then yeah, it's nice that it's priced at a reasonable, you know, level.
Yeah. And that's the one, I think it seems like it's the most popular one because it has that range, right?
Yeah, really good range. Yeah. So, I mean, if you want to get one zoom lens, then I would get that one, right? Because the other one you have, Tom, the zoom lens is the 55 to 210, so that goes really long, right? It's a nice long lens.
Yeah.
Have you been using that one much, the long lens?
Not actually, no, not as much, I guess, as I thought I'd be using it, but I will be using it more and more. I mean, I did for occasional shots here and there. I did use it, but I guess I love this little lens so much that the 16 to 50 millimeter, that, like I said, it's a great beginner lens, but you can use it for professional work. The music video that I'm actually going to be showing you guys some like behind the scenes, it was shot on the A6300, which again is just the same lenses you can use on this camera and the 6500. And when I'm gonna release that video soon, I promise, that video is gonna be released, and I'll show you guys basically how like all these amazing shots that I was able to get on the gimbal using this lens, this kit lens, 16 to 50 millimeter. So I would definitely say it's a lens that you want to get. You can see here actually right now, this is kind of how it looks when the lens is extended. So it extends a little bit on, like basically when you turn it on, and then, you know, if you turn off the camera, you'll see how this is kind of how it hides there. So like I said, obviously when you're balancing in a gimbal, you want to have it turned down so the lens extends. But then once you're zooming in and out, you'll see it changes a little bit, but it's not a big difference. So now I'm zoomed out all the way here, and here I'm zoomed in all the way on 50. So it's not a big difference. And yeah, it's a great all-around lens because of, like I said, because of the fact that that you have this nice range there. Now the thing is, obviously, it's not very fast, right? So you know, not a big problem with most like these modern Sony cameras because they're amazing in low light. So that's, you know, you'll still get a good exposure in any kind of decent amount of light. But I guess if you want to get that really shallow kind of cinematic depth of field, you'll still get it. On a 50mm, you'll still get it. But it's not going to be as nice and shallow as, for example, this other lens that I got here, which is the 50mm. It's a prime lens, meaning it doesn't zoom in. F1.8, so the aperture is, you know, much faster than this one. Whereas this one, when you're zooming in, this kit lens, when you're zooming in all the way at 50mm, it goes to f5.6. So it's, you know, dramatically slower. So that's one thing to consider. But I would still say get this lens because, like I said, for a gimbal, you don't want probably have that very narrow depth of field because you're on a gimbal and you want to have, like I said, a little bit more of a leeway. So if you move in a little bit closer or further from your subject still stays in focus. And then if you're all the way on 16mm on this lens, then it doesn't really matter because it's so wide that everything's going to be pretty much in focus anyway. So yeah, so that's like a good, I would say, lens. Now, yeah, another kit lens here that I got, or part of this kit at least, is the this one here, which is the, what is it? I forget now. It's a zoom lens. It's 55mm to 210. This is how it's drastically bigger, as you can see, comparing it to just the other kit lens here. You can see much longer and heavier. But I got it because it was, again, drastically cheaper. Getting it brand new, which again I provide the links in the description, but maybe Lucas, you can check this zoom lens. How much is it? Like, just if you were to buy it on its own, 55mm to 210.
Just a moment.
And it's the 6.3, basically
348.
348. So yeah, $348. Whereas if I bought it as a kit, like I said, I bought the whole thing, basically the camera, this kit lens 16 to 55, and this one the 55 to 210, and I bought this for $1,600. So that's the reason why I got it, because it's still a decent kind of all-around kind of a, you know, lens that I don't mind, you know, knocking around or putting in some situations where it might get damaged or scratched because it didn't cost an arm and a leg. Now you see when you're zooming in all the way to 110, it becomes drastically longer, as you can see here. But you know, it's a decent lens in the sense that it's cheap if you buy it as a kit. Separately, I don't know if I would recommend buying it. But I mean, if you need a zoom lens and you can't afford to buy the really expensive ones, then I guess it's the way to go. But I mean, otherwise, yeah, it's you know, there are other better lenses, I would say, zoom lenses, but they're gonna cost you a lot more. But if you're, for example, like a beginner, I would say with these two lenses you're set. So you have all the way from 16mm to 50. So that's like a perfect wide angle and mid range. And then here you're not covering the full range because it jumps to basically 55mm. But there's really nothing there between 50 and 55mm. It's like, oh my god, I need to have that focal length. So this is great because then with this lens you pretty much covered all the way, basically I said with these two lenses, all the way from 16mm to 210. So that's a really big zoom. And then the nice thing on this, you know, all the like new Sony cameras is that you also have the clear zoom option, so you can zoom in even further. And it's not, like I said, it's nice sharp lens for photos, for videos. It's just not the fastest. That's really the only difference. But the image stabilization works really well. Has optical image stabilization. The autofocus will work really well with this, you know, with the Sony camera still. And a 210mm is a pretty nice focal, you know, range, like a really on the wide, on the, you know, longer zoom basically of a range. It's really nice. So yeah, so I would definitely recommend getting this if you can get it as a kit. Separately, you might want to think about, you know, like if you're gonna spend already the 300, was it $80, Lucas?
Sorry for this.
That
for
lens you said is 300.
50?
Yeah, no, the 55 to 210 is, you said it's
348.
348. Yeah, so for 348, it might not be worth it because then, you know, you might as well put extra money and get like a really much better, faster lens. But if you get it as a kit, yeah, it's great. Definitely go with it. So I would say those are the two, I would say, yeah, beginner lenses. These two right here. Now, another one, like I said, so let me just put the lens cap on this. I always lose lens caps. Anyway, so this is, yeah, like I said, those two, definitely get it if you're buying any of the Sony cameras now, and you can get it as a kit. Now, so what are some of the other lenses once you're no longer a beginner and you're upgrading and you want to get other lenses? What is it that you should probably invest in? Well, first one I would say is getting a good 50mm lens. I always get that for all my cameras. Personally, I love 50mm focal length, like I said already. Great portrait lens and all that stuff. Plus, it's just good. I mean, it's like a good mid-range lens, so you can use it for semi sort of, I'm not gonna call it telephoto, but kind of tighter shots. You can use it for actually like pretty close-up kind of portrait shots. You just have to get in closer with the camera. If you move the camera further back, you can get a nice wide-angle shot actually with these still. Now, the thing is that these usually it's because of the fact that they're easier to produce. And all camera manufacturers or all different brands will usually provide one 50mm prime lens that is going to be fairly affordable. So this one's like around $200. It's f1.8, so drastically faster. You really don't need to go faster than that. And with this, trust me, you can get really nice, super shallow depth of field. So definitely a lens I would recommend. And overall, just a nice still lens. It's sharp. It's light. Yeah, it's just a nice lens. The only thing is that it's just a 50mm, right? But it is affordable, and so that would say that's the first lens. Like if you want to jump from being a beginner to like you're upgrading your lens arsenal, that's probably the first lens I would recommend. Then after that, we got other lenses that are here. Let me actually look at here on the computer what we got, and you guys can also maybe see this here with me. Let's see here. So yeah, so these are, like I said, my sort of 3 lenses, and you'll see it in the description of the video, kind of what I have. The next one is the one that Lucas mentioned, is the 16 to 35. Oh no, actually no, that's not. Is that the one that you were talking about, Lucas? That is like the popular.
It's the 16. It's the 18 to 105.
18 to 105. Okay, so yeah, so that's another. It's and what's the aperture on that one?
F4, so it's actually
F4.
Nice, and stays at F4
it's a constant,
throughout the range, so that's really nice.
Not the fastest still, but not horribly slow.
No, but
like
I mean,
these ones.
look at those overall Sony lenses. Most of them are F4. Now you have to spend good money to go, to f2.8 to get that extra f-stop. And so you're looking at $1,500 to $2,000 for those faster lenses overall. So f4 is still pretty good. I mean, if you compare it, comparing it to like the Panasonic zoom lenses, it's about the same. You're getting pretty much as much light as on f2.8 on the Panasonic cameras, like Micro Four Thirds. So f4 is pretty good with that sensor size. It's still good. It's fast. I mean, obviously the depth of field. Yeah, I mean, it's still a pretty fast lens, right?
Yeah. And that's something to actually consider when it comes to Sony lens lineup, is that it's not the greatest. They're getting up there, they're building up their collection nicely, but they're either really super overpriced, or there's just basically not as big of a selection, especially when you want those really fast lenses, like I would say basically f2.8 or below that. There's almost nothing. They have some now that are f2.8, and actually the next lens here I'll show you guys is this one. It's the Sony, basically it's from their G line of lenses, which is like the top of the line, and you can see it comes with the top of the line price of $2,198. And this one, I thought it was already released, but it's saying up here, at least on Amazon, it's going to be released in August, at the end of August. You can pre-order it already, and I know B&H also. So August 31st, it's going to come out, and this is the latest kind of edition, which is nice that they're putting this now. 16 to 35mm f2.8 constant, so it's really good. And it's fairly, like I said, fairly fast. Now, it's not as fast as some other lenses out there or some other manufacturers make, but for Sony, that's pretty much the fastest you're gonna go with. So, and it's a really nice lens, but it just, like you can see, it still doesn't cover the range that I have here with my kit lens when it comes to the focal lens, focal length, because it starts at 16, but it ends at 30. 35. This one goes all the way to 50mm. Now, where you're getting there, extras, you're getting that extra, basically, speed, right? The wider aperture that you can get. than you can get with the kit lens, but you're also paying a whole lot of a lot more money. So it's like you're spending more on that lens than you're gonna spend on most of these Sony cameras. So something to be aware of. But it is a great lens, and if you want to go pro, I would say you definitely need lenses like on the, you know, you kind of want to have, I would say, the range focal length that I usually want to cover myself as a filmmaker is have lenses that are more or less cover from, I don't know if you need to go as wide as 16, but at least from 20mm to like a 200mm. That's kind of the range that I always tell people you need to have. Now, if you really want to, if you're shooting music videos and you want to get those really nice wide angle shots, then 16 or even wider in that case is something that you're gonna need. But yeah, that's you see what's one of the lenses here that yeah, that's you should probably consider it if you don't, you know, if your wallet is not gonna suffer too much. Another lens, and this is something that a lot of people get, is like I said, a zoom lens. But instead of it being, you know, this zoom lens here that I have, the kit zoom lens, it's basically the faster one. And Canon has their own, basically, that they released many years ago, and it's very popular. It's the wide kind of a zoom lens, which is 70 to 200mm. It's a very popular focal length, and because it covers a really nice range, and it's f2.8. Now the Canon one is expensive, but it's not as expensive as the Sony one, because Sony released their own now, and here it is. It's the Sony basically FE, so full frame. So this is gonna work also on the you know A7S2 and all that stuff, all those full frame cameras. It's 70 to 200mm f2.8. It's from their G lineup of lenses, and it looks very similar actually to the one that Canon has. You know, it's white with those kind of black rings, and so you know, I haven't used this lens myself. I've seen people shoot stuff with it, great results they were getting. So an overall great looking lens. It's just with a really big steep, you know, price tag, $2,600. So like I said, even more expensive than the thing, than the.
So that lens on the A6500 would actually give you even more crop. Like it would be about over 100 to 300mm, right?
Well, if you want to get into the whole conversion from APS-C size, whatever. But I don't want to get into that because it's a headache, and you kind of should. I always tell people you should kind of just get used to, okay, you're shooting APS-C size sensor, get used to what 50mm looks like on an APS-C size, and then you don't have to say, well, this is like not really 50 because it's on a full frame, this will be more like this, and just, you know, it's the focal length don't change, it's the crop factor that changes. So
well, yeah, the crop, you're going to be able to crop in a lot more, so it's actually a long lens, right? Very long lens.
Yeah, it's very long lens. But I mean, you know, if you get the Canon lens, also the 70 to 200mm, but you're using it on a APS-C size sensor, like, you know, let's say Canon 7D camera, then yeah, then you're also gonna have the same focal length as you'll get with this one. So that's why, like I said, I don't want to get into the whole full frame versus APS-C, but yeah, it's an overall really nice, you know, range. It's kind of from a higher kind of mid-range kind of 70mm. That's what I consider, which is still could be a good portrait lens, all the way to 200. Which even the 200mm can be an amazing portrait lens if you want to get those really dramatic kind of close-ups where you're really throwing everything out of focus and just concentrating on the face. It can be a great, nice close-up portrait lens. Definitely, we're not going to get a wide-angle shot with on a 200mm, or it's be very difficult to get it. You have to go really, really far. But yeah, so that's another lens you want to get into. But when you're basically considering, I guess, going pro, do you have to get it? No, and I'm going to show you guys why in a minute, because there's other, you know, alternatives. Another, for example, here lens that's also very popular now. You know, seen some people getting, and it's actually not that expensive. Is also a fast lens, sort of like this one that I bought here, the 50mm f1.8, and it's the Sony. There's the made from Sony, so it's, you know, quality and everything is there, nice sharpness. It's gonna work well with the autofocus, and it's the Sony 35mm f1.8 lens, and it's you know, you can get it here on Amazon. You can get it for $450 almost. Check B&H and stuff, or other AMA, they might have it for less. That they do have sales every so on. But yeah, it's a great all-around lens, like I said, and a really fast, kind of like the 50 that I bought prime. But I just find 35mm, like if you're gonna look for faster prime lenses that are still affordable, then like I said, you can get the 50 one for, you know, almost half the price of this one. And for me, at least, it's a focal length that I prefer better because I can use, like I said, for wide-angle shots, but I can even use it for fairly close portrait shots. 35mm, I mean, you can get a close portrait shot if you're moving really close, but you're really going to be exaggerating the facial features and stuff because you have to get it really close. So that's why I think as a portrait lens, 50mm is great, and that's why there's been movies that like majority of my work that I do, like 80 if not 90% of the shots that I get are usually on a 50mm focal length. So that should just tell you how far a good 50mm lens can go. And there's been movies like the Dallas Buyers Club with Matthew McConaughey, or actually even the other movie that the same director did, The Wild, with Reese Witherspoon. It was shot pretty much like, if I know Dallas Buyers Club was shot the whole film on just a 50mm lens. Wild, they used a few other lenses here and there, but majority of the film was again shot on a 50mm lens. So it just shows you it's a great focal length. It's not just me who says that. There's a lot of DPs out there who do that, who do think that way. And that's the reason why I would recommend it. But at 35, again, this is another focal length that's good if you like those kind of slightly wider shots. Now, like I said, if you're going to go for music video shots and you really, I guess, want to have an option to go really wide and still get a decent focal length, then here's another lens, which is again from Sony. And that's again, I would only basically recommend once you get the kit lenses, and then you're upgrading to kind of going more pro, and you're shooting a lot of wide angle stuff. And this is a really wide angle, it goes from 10 to 18mm. It's a zoom lens, so it's nice because you can, even though it's wide, you can still kind of adjust your kind of focal field of view, your framing. And it has a constant aperture of f4. Which is pretty damn good. So f4, like I said, not the fastest, but for a wide-angle lens, it's not like you're going to be needing super shallow depth of field because it's a wide-angle lens. So automatically the depth of field is never going to be really that shallow. So f4 is great, and like I said, it's fast enough for all the Sony cameras because they're pretty damn good in low light situations. And it's not as much as their G lenses, G line of lenses. So this one's 750. And I would say it's not something that I'll get into because I'm not a fan, like I was saying, of shooting wide-angle lenses. But if you want to get those really exaggerated, kind of like I said, usually you see them in music videos, in some films too. There's some directors that shoot with crazy wide-angle, kind of distorted lenses. Then 10mm on a APS-C size sensor is going to be crazy wide. So definitely something to consider. And then another lens here. It's nice lens. It's also from their G line lenses. It's the actually no, it's the Vario. The Vario. It's the Sony, but basically it's made in with Zeiss lenses. And these are basically the. Let me show you guys. This is the Sony 16 to 35mm. This is f4, and this is actually the lens that I used for majority of that music video that I shot with Anna Seisen with the Sony A7 S2. And it's because it's a great overall, like I said, focal length. And in that music video, the whole music video was shot on a gimbal, so I mostly relied on the wider angle, like on the wider focal length, like 16mm. And having a constant aperture, it just meant I didn't have to worry about my camera settings being or my aperture being changing while I'm zooming in and zooming out, and therefore changing my exposure and all that stuff. So that was the good thing about it. And yeah, overall nice lens. $1,200 or $1,250 actually. So you can see though it's not cheap, but it is a decent lens. But yeah, that's why I would say Sony has. There's some nice lenses now they're having and they're introducing them, but they're still for my taste overpriced. I always look for better deals. Another lens that they have, which is very similar, which has also the OSS, AF, all that stuff, performance. It's also the Sony Vario, basically Zeiss lens, which is the 16 to 70mm. Another great lens, but also I would say not as overpriced as the other one, but still $900. So something to consider. Again, check all the links in the description of the video if you want to see all the more details about those lenses. Now, there's other lenses I would recommend if you're, like I said, have your two kit lenses, let's say, with your Sony camera, whether it's a 6500 or or 6300 or whatever other Sony camera you're using, and you want to go a little bit more pro, have better lenses, but you just don't want to spend the kind of money that Sony charges, then another lens, really great lens that a lot of people are using, is the Sigma art lens. And they actually have different ones. They have different art lenses. Those are going to cost you, but they're not going to, at least I don't think they're going to cost you, what is it? It's not going to come out to be as much as some of the other lenses here. Let me see actually, because I did have a link here so I can show you guys. I don't see it here right now, but yeah, I'm gonna provide the links then for that lens so you guys can see it, the art lens. And it's oh, okay, now I know why I didn't put it in there, but I'll put it in the link later on, because they don't have one which is with a native E mount. That's the only problem. So you can use that lens, but it's the art lens, the Sony not the Sony art lens, but the Sigma art lens, the 16 to 35, and then they have another one also, bit like a longer focal length, very fast lenses, very nice, sharp, all that stuff. And if you're using it with an adapter, then it's gonna be almost the same. The AF performance might not be as good as a native Sony lens, but otherwise everything else is gonna be on pretty much as if you're using a native Sony lens on your Sony cameras. So that's something to consider. But there is another lens that here Sigma produces, and this is here, let me just cut here so you guys can see. It's the Sigma 30mm f1.4. So as you can see, very similar to the one that Sony has, right? But it's even faster. It's not, the other one was 35. This one's 30mm f1.4. But look at the price, huge difference, $330. So it's a great lens, nice sharp lens. So yeah, so definitely I would recommend it. Now the only thing to keep in mind is, again, this is for APS-C size. It's not going to work with Sony A7S II, unless you don't mind shooting with the cropped sensor on the Sony A7S II, which you can do. But otherwise, yeah, it's going to work great with all their other Sony cameras, and it's I think a great deal overall. So that's the reason why kind of I included there. Let's see here what other lenses we have here. Any questions, Lucas?
Yeah, right now here somebody's asking for a recommendation. What's VFX filmmaker? He's going to be shooting his first short next week, and he's asking about the affordable 10mm that lens or something close to it. And I was asking him why he wants that. And he's got other lenses, but he says he wants it for establishing shot. Do you need something that wide? Like, I mean, what do you think about using lens like that for establishing shot?
How wide again?
10mm.
I mean, yeah, that is because you're gonna start seeing distortions, and that's something you got to be aware of. At 10mm, it's pretty damn wide. I mean, and again, it depends if he's going with a full frame sensor or APS-C like this one, or even tighter. But on a full frame, definitely you're gonna start seeing the distortions on the edges and stuff. Which I guess if you want that look, then you can think. But I would say, like I love this 16mm lens because that is pretty damn wide on an APS-C size sensor already. So pretty damn wide 16mm, and you can get amazing wide, basically, like establishing kind of landscape shots and stuff. So I really don't think you want to go, like I said, 20mm is even a nice wide angle lens. Obviously it's not going to be super wide like like the 10mm, but yeah, 10mm I would say is not really for landscape shots. It's more for, you want to get this really exaggerated perspective. That's why it's good in music videos. It's put something basically close to the camera and something a little bit, just further back, but it looks like it's all a mile away, right? Also good for when you're getting like action shots, let's say cars racing, because you can really make it look like cars are going super fast by having cars basically moving in and out of the camera, even though they might be going very slowly, but because it's such a wide angle lens that you move in a little bit and it looks like it's like it's such a big dramatic movement. And that's why, like I said, in music videos, like where you have a lot of hip-hop music videos where you have the guys always performing to the lens, and they have like the lens right there, and it's a wide angle lens, and they're going like this, then you see their hands really look like going really fast all over the place, and their hands really get big, exaggerated, and then when they pull their hands back. Or the same thing when you're using it in hip-hop music videos, when you have girls shaking their and you have the camera really down low below, getting that low angle shot of their again, you know what? And as they're moving, it just exaggerates certain body features. So that's where a 10mm lens is good, and that's why I put it on the list. But not for wide angle, not for establishing shots.
So normally you don't use those for establishing shots. Now I guess lenses that wide are people use them in real estate and so on, like to get shots when you have limited space, right? Or filmmakers say, yeah, for sure use those very wide lenses, but for artistic reasons, right? Well, they actually want some of that distortion, right?
Yeah.
So that's when you would want to have such a wide lens, but you don't need such a wide lens to get an establishing shot. That's for sure, right?
No. And I would say be actually careful, because you be careful what you wish for, because you could end up having a really weird kind of like I said, distorted
with caution,
wide angle
right?
shots. Yeah.
Can be a really cool effect. There are some really films, some really famous shots shot with like wide lenses, very wide lenses. They give you all this distortion, but yeah, like just make sure you know what you're getting into, and if you just want to have a nice shot without any distortions, establishing shot, then you don't need such a wide lens.
No. Yeah. Any other questions we got?
You're going to get to the adapter, I think, right?
I'm going to get to that.
Like this is, so many people realize that the Sony lenses are not like
I'll talk
the
about
best
it
or most
at
affordable.
the end, I guess.
If you want to get a good lens, so then you want to go with Canon and Nikon lenses, and then so the people asking about what's the adapter you would recommend. There's one you listed in the video description, so people can check there. But the person here says that the Viltrox adapter is like 6.5 to 7 stars out of 10 in somewhere, I guess on Amazon or somewhere, I'm not sure where. But that's the adapter you've been using, right? Right?
Yeah.
And how many stars would you give it? How many points would you give it out of 10?
I mean, I haven't done like side by side, I guess, comparisons of this adapter, which I have here. I was going to talk about it at the end, but here it is. Of like, let's say, comparing it to Metabones, which a lot of people are using and which I'm using too. But I actually would want to get I'll probably get the Metabones so I can kind of test it, because I have my Metabones, but for the GH4 and GH5. This one is basically, it's a focal reducer, which is a really nice thing, because then even if you're shooting on an APS-C size sensor, you're still getting the full frame look, and also you're getting extra light, right? And to be honest, so far from what having used this, yeah, it looks pretty nice and sharp. So I mean, it looks sharp. I don't see any other like artifacts, like abbreviations and stuff, but there's always going to be something. I mean, you're always degrading slightly quality the more glass you put, and you're putting basically a piece of glass up here. So that's something, like I said, to be aware of. And let me actually here, as you guys can kind of see in more detail. You see, this is basically how the adapter looks. It's a nice adapter, like just the way it's built, kind of quality and all that stuff. It's really nice. But you'll see, and it's an active adapter, meaning it has the contacts here. So we'll transmit electronic information from basically your camera to your lens. So this will allow you to use now Canon lenses, and because Canon just has a lot more, Canon EF mount is a lot bigger lens selection just from Canon themselves, but from other brands too. So that's the great thing. But you can see here this, because they have two versions of the adapter, the one that's just a regular one, and then the one this one, which is the focal reducer, meaning it condenses the light, it gets you basically a bigger image, basically basically a full frame look on a APS-C size sensor. But yeah, it has that piece of glass there, so you got to be aware of the fact that that piece of glass always going to add some kind of I don't want to say artifacts, but it's going to add something, right? Because basically putting another piece of glass. Doesn't mean that it's going to degrade the image quality, or is it as bad or maybe better than Metabones? Because Metabones also has the focal reducers, also have a piece of glass. Well, I can't say because I haven't compared it to, side by side to Metabones. But just looking at it, my initial tests using it, no, it's great. I mean, it's a great adapter, allows you to use Canon lenses, and so that's one of the reasons why you might want to consider something like this, because, like I said, yeah, suddenly your Sony cameras, world of basically of lens selections for your Sony camera opens up drastically, and this thing is just $120. You can get or 130 now, I think, depends. Sometimes you can find a deal on Amazon or B&H or whatever. So I provided the links again in the description, so take a look at those. But yeah, like I said, drastically cheaper than like the $600 Metabonds adapter that they have. So, you know, again, it's going to be interesting for me to see kind of side-by-side comparison, but whether you're going with this one or whether you're going for something with like the Metabonds or you're going with a completely different adapter, like here I have an adapter that cost me $20. It's the, what's it, Photasi, yeah, basically adapter, which is just a passive adapter. As you'll notice, it doesn't have, here, let me show you guys in a close-up. It doesn't have any of the basically electronic information that it passes through. It's just adapter with E-mount on this side and EF here. So if you're putting cinema lenses like Rokinon or whatever, like cinema lenses or manual lenses, it doesn't matter because you're not controlling those lenses, you know, electronically through the camera. So this will still work great. It's passive, meaning there's no glass there. As you can see, my finger goes straight through. So it will not basically introduce any artifacts because there's no piece of glass there. It just literally just lets you put another lens, another mount in front of your Sony cameras. And yeah, and this is super affordable. So there's definitely other options that allow you to put basically other lenses, other brands lenses. And I would say Canon just simply has the biggest selection. So that's why I would recommend probably that you first look into Canon lenses because there's just or not Canon made, but Canon basically mount. They could be Tamron, they could be Sigma, whatever, but lenses that have a Canon EF mount, because there's so many lenses out there for that mount, and that's where having a good adapter that will, you know, basically let you put Canon EF lenses on a Sony camera is going to come in really handy. So yeah, so that's probably, you know, I would say that the next thing you want to kind of consider doing if you're considering going, you know, pro, you could say, with your lenses. With your Sony camera, you want to go pro and you want to have more options, get an adapter like this one, or get what do you call it, or get the G lenses from Sony. But again, this is going to cost you a lot more. Whereas you can see this one, $120, $130 adapter, and suddenly you can use a ton of these other really great lenses. One of the ones, like I said, I was recommending is those Sigma lenses, the Sigma Art lenses. There's a few of them that they have. Amazing lenses, and they're, you know, a little bit more, but they're still not going to cost you as much as the Sony G lenses. Depending on which focal length you get, you can get some good deals every so on, and they have, you know, they're super fast, nice, sharp, just beautiful lenses. So that's something probably I would consider, I guess, looking into. Any other questions?
Yeah, I'm just wondering whether they're going to be showing any examples. It's almost an hour long into the stream. But yeah, like what lens would you recommend for music concerts? From Robert Paris.
Music concerts, like, yeah. I guess you want to get a really good zoom lens, and it is darker, so that's when I would say go with that, you know, with that unfortunately expensive lens, but it's the 70-200, you know, f2.2, or get the one that's Canon, also great, slightly cheaper, and then get the adapter. I mean, that might be one way of going with it, or you could still go, because like I said, Sony cameras are pretty damn good in low light. So even concerts, for the most part, are well lit, right? I mean, they have nice lighting. But if you want to get like the audience or this and that, yeah, it's going to be very low light. But I'll tell you, with the Sony cameras, you know, you can go. I mean, with this little camera, I can shoot to like pretty much all the way to like the max ISO, 25,000 ISO. And if you know what you're doing, you can follow my video of basically how to get clean, noiseless videos. On, you know, basically with any camera. If you follow those basic concepts and techniques, then you can use, you know, any of these lenses, and especially on Sony, and you can get nice, sharp, basically shots in low light. And like I said, this lens is very cheap. This little kit lens that I got, you know, 55 to 210 mil. So you can still use that. Now, if you obviously want to have shallower the depth of field, which on a concert, I don't know if you need to do that, but if you wanted to, and also just have more, basically be able to, you know, take in more light, so have a faster lens, then yeah, I would say get the 70 to 200. So.
Would you get want to get like a wide lens, like 10 to 18, maybe the one you were mentioning? So like, obviously you can get from far away, you know, the shot of the whole stage, but maybe if you wanted to,
I guess the concert
must be closer to the stage and still get a wide shot, like that might, yeah.
I mean, yeah, I would say it depends on, you know, what kind of, where you are and what you're trying to capture. Usually people are trying to capture concerts, they're off to the sidelines or behind the crowd, and they're zooming in on the stage. So in that case, yeah, you want to have a good telephoto lens. But if you're, let's say, up there, right up there on the stage on the gimbal, and you want to get the whole stage and go up to the, you know, the singer's face and things like that, then that's probably where you're gonna use that zoom lens. So then get the zoom lens that I talked about. Yeah, that's probably another way to go. Any other questions?
Any issues with overheating of this camera, the Sony A6500?
No issues as of yet. I'm very happy to say that. And yes, I know. I was kind of wondering myself. I shot, like I was telling you guys, a video I'm going to release soon about music video and a bunch of other things I shot in South America with the Sony A6300. Very similar to this little camera. Great camera overall too. But yeah, I did have some overheating issues, especially there. Like we were, you know, in Ecuador, super hot, out in the middle of the day in the broad sunlight. So the camera was overheating. We had to like stop every so on, fan, wave it, you know, wave something on it, or keep it in the shade to cool it off. This camera, no problems. Now, granted, I haven't shot in as hot weather as I did in Ecuador with the 6300, but the 6500, I mean, I've shot in a few days where it was fairly hot outside in sunlight, and never once, you know, one time I had the camera running for like over an hour, which, by the way, you can record with this camera over an hour. Not like, you know, if you get the camera, it has a half-hour record limit, but there's an app you can install, free app, that allows you to then basically hack that, and you can record unlimited on these cameras, on all Sony cameras basically. Something to consider. I might actually do a video, kind of little things that you might want to do kind of to improve the Sony cameras, and that's one of the things. So you can record for a long time, and it's good to know now that, you know, since you can record longer than a half hour, that you don't have to worry about the overheating. At least I haven't had any overheating issues. So no. Yeah,
okay, here we got a question from Mike Coffert. Ignoring the cost, what do you think about the Fujinon 18-55 versus the Sony GM series lenses?
Okay, let me.
Image quality and operating, if you operate them manually, so if you don't worry about the.
So the Fujinon. Hold on. Let me go and I can look it up here. So I have the specs.
I mean, Sony GM lenses; those are expensive lenses, and the Fujinon 18-55. How expensive is it?
18-55. Let's see here.
Well, that one's only $700, so it's still reasonable. F2.8 to 4. So you haven't really used it, right?
I haven't used it. No. I'm just gonna look at the specs and kind of tell you guys, I guess, what I think. But this one is here. This is X mount. Oh, it's an it is an expensive lens. Okay, now I know which one it is. It's the one that I was testing it out actually at NAB, and it's
oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a very nice lens, but it comes with a very nice price. But yeah, I guess if you're saying ignore the price, you know what I'll tell you. I mean, it's good, you know, T2.9, which is kind of equivalent almost to the F2.8. It's a nice lens actually here. For those of you who are kind of interested, you want to see, I'll let you kind of look at it here. This is how it looks. It's basically what I didn't like about it is the size and the weight. I mean, that's one thing. The size and the weight is not for everything. And if you're shooting with like a little APS-C size, you know, camera like this one, then it's yeah, you know, it's something to consider. Like, you know, it is here, like you can see on the Sony FS7. You can see it's still how much bigger it is than that camera, and this is a pretty big camera. So it's a pretty long lens. Now it was, again, I haven't been able to do really like field testing, just kind of did it there at NAB, played around with it. Very nice lens, like the rings are very smooth and all that stuff. You know, it has nice here zoom controls, T-stop kind of, you know, manual controls here. Has all those nice things, like I said, back focus. It has beautiful lens with a beautiful price. But again, if money's not an issue to you, would I go with it? I don't know that I would always go with, you know, like I said, it's not always just about the money, because me personally, I like to shoot light and small. So if this was like, if I was doing a film shoot, and you know, and I'm not moving and running and gunning kind of a film shoot, but where I have a proper crew, we're setting up one shot and another shot, all that stuff, then yeah, you know, having a nice lens like that is great. It's beautiful quality and stuff. But and then usually on those projects, again, I'm not worried about money because it's all paid for, you know, rentals or whatever. But if it's something like me, I probably wouldn't get that lens, because at the end of the day, I would look at money. And also, like I said, it's just, it's such a big heavy lens. That is one thing I'll tell you, is it is a pretty pretty big and heavy lens. So that's, for me, I don't like to work with that, and it's, you know, you have this huge Canon kind of a thing in front of, like, what I love about these little small cameras is that, yeah, they're small. So if you put a lens, you know, like this one, a 16 to 50, very similar focal length to this one, and you can see how much tinier and lighter this is. No way you're going to be able to also fly this on a gimbal with that thing, or even putting it on a crane is going to be, you usually have to have like a lens support and stuff. So that's one thing, is that I would say it's a nice lens, but it's a lens that's only, I would say, it's not like the quality is going to be, you know, world apart. So, you know, from a lens like this one, it's not. You know, is there going to be slightly sharpness, you know, sharper and all that stuff? Yes, it is, but it's not a world apart kind of a difference. And for most, like I said, like viewers, people who watch your work, they probably wouldn't notice the difference. So then that's why I would say, in that case, is it worth it? Well, it's only worth it if you're really shooting a top of the line project. You're shooting a feature film where you have the budget, you have the time, then yeah, go with it. But if you're shooting anything else, you know, internet content, you know, some smaller commercials, wedding videos, even stuff, it's not something to go for. I wouldn't recommend it. Yeah, it's too big.
Tomek, do you want to show any examples?
Examples of what?
I thought you were mentioning earlier that you would have some examples prepared that you were going to show us.
Well, yeah, I wanted to show the camera, but for some reason, I don't know, I can't get the feed out of the camera right now, because I think it's a different, basically, it's a frame rate that's not going to be supported right now with our web stream setup. But I was thinking of putting on the lenses, but unfortunately I can't get the video out of this camera. So we can show.
Okay,
the
so let's get a few questions here, and then let's wrap it up. Okay, so what's the best cheap lens for the Sony A7 II Mark II?
Can you repeat that again?
What's the best cheap lens for the Sony A7S II?
Best cheap lens for Sony A7S II.
So.
Well, I guess, I mean,
you were mentioning before the 16 to 35, but that's not a cheap lens. That was like $1,200.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it depends.
You really
what's cheap lens? Like, do you care about it being native cheap lens, or do you care about thing? Because if it's just cheap lens, then I would say get an adapter like the one that we were talking about here, and then you have a whole world of good cheap lenses. And probably then I would say the Sigma. I think it's the 18 to 50 millimeter. It's like a good Sigma zoom lens, f2.8. It's a great lens. It's like $300 you can get it, and then, but like I said, that one only comes with Canon EF mount. So that's why I would say get the EF to E mount adapter like this one, and you're set. You can get really nice shots. So again, there's no good cheap lens, I would say, within the Sony lineup, other than, like I said, if you get this, yeah, then I would say just this kit lens here that I got. 16 to 50 millimeter. It's not the fastest, but it's a cheap lens. Cheap lens, especially if you get it as a kit. So it's a very cheap lens. So I would say to get that one. Yeah. Any other questions?
Let me see here. Well, how do these the lenses that you've been covering here in this video? How do they compare to the Sigma Art lenses?
Sigma Art lenses. You mean which ones though? Like comparing. Like the G lenses, the expensive ones, or does it specify in a question? Or?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, the expensive, the Sigma Art.
Yeah,
lenses.
well, that's what I'm saying. The Art Sigma lenses are drastically cheaper, and faster even than the fastest. Like I said, like those G lenses Sony offers. They're only f2.8. The Sigma Art lenses go down to like the f1.4. So it's they're much better in that sense. I would say it's cheaper and faster lenses. Beautiful, just sharp and all that stuff. The build of the quality of the build, and also the focus is nice because it's not what's it called, like the focus ring is basically it allows you to nail more accurate focus without getting into details. That's one thing I'm not a big fan of, basically focusing on the Sony lenses. But that's why I would say get Sony lenses if you're going to use the AF, because using the AF, then you don't care about the focus ring, I guess. Yep.
Okay, yeah, makes sense. For manual control, like if you're doing it manually, then for sure just get the art lenses.
Yeah.
Okay, or it makes sense to get them. What else here? Changing the topic a little bit. Fluid head. What fluid head do you recommend? Somebody is saying here, looking at the Benro S8.
Okay.
Oh, it's Kevin K.
Benro
Question
S8
from Kevin.
or.
Yeah.
Or what's the other one?
It's the Benro S.
Okay.
Benro S8. Fluid head. What fluid head do you recommend? We're using Manfrotto, right? Is it the 520?
Yeah,
the 520, right?
502 and 504. Manfrotto is the ones that I'm using. I found them, they're just, you know, it's not that they're the best out there. I mean, there's a lot of things. I haven't, to be honest, really gone testing out all these heads. I also like the Succeed ones. Is actually what I have right now on this camera here that you guys are seeing through. It's this Succeed tripod. I did a video about it actually. And then the Succeed, head on it, and it's great because it's supporting my Ursa right now with the extra monitor and accessories and stuff. So it's a nice, stable, like I said, head, and it's the one with ball head, so you can adjust it, level it very fast, and it's a great thing. So I mean, I guess I don't want to speak about other ones that I haven't used. So from personal experience, the Succeed ones I liked. There were other brands before that I used that I just even forgot about them because they were just horrible. Manfrotto, not all Manfrotto tripods, but the 502 and 504 are good. They're decent heads. They'll take a decent amount of weight, and they're very smooth. I like how they operate. So those ones, and then I guess Satchler makes some really great heads, but they're gonna cost you a lot more. So that's something to consider. Yeah. Any other questions?
I think it's a good moment to stop and wrap it up for today.
Yeah, you do want to get into video submissions or no?
Stomach, we're really late into the show. I think it's best to.
All right, so we have some great video submissions, but yeah, I mean, I guess apologies. It took longer than I thought, I guess, talking about the lenses, but we're gonna get to the video submissions. By the way, if you guys want to also ask to feature your video submissions, your films, music videos, whatever it is, tests that you're shooting or some project that you've done, maybe you want to promote yourself on our show here, submit all your videos by following the link again in the description of this video. Very simple submission form, just fill it out, and then next week at next week's show, again, as always, the same time, 12 p.m. Eastern Pacific. Oh no, Eastern time, not Pacific time. And Pacific time it's 8. What is it? No, 8 a.m. right? No, 9 p.m.
Pacific time. It's 3-hour difference between Eastern and Pacific, so it's going to be 9 a.m.
9 a.m. Yeah. So 9 a.m. Pacific time. Every Sunday we're doing this show, and next week, like I said, we'll get to the submissions. We'll show it. Maybe I'll do it first and then I'll start talking about whatever we're talking, because otherwise I always tend to go a little bit longer. But anyways, it was, I think, a good show.
Thing, guys, if you like, there's a topic you want us to cover on these shows, and let us know.
Yeah.
Any suggestions? What you would want us to talk next week or in the coming weeks? Please let us know.
Yeah, exactly. And if I see here Lucas is in a new setup, if you guys are looking at it, let us know if you like Luke's new setup here. He's got
it's an evolving setup.
It's an evolving setup.
It was improvised last minute, but yeah, I'll try to. Yeah, hopefully it's going to improve a little bit.
I think it looks good now with the lighting and everything, how you got it, because before, yeah.
Basically, I've got this. Okay, I've got this. If you can cut to me, I'm not sure you're showing me. So I've got this shelf behind me. It's going to be mostly used for kid toys, but I think just on Sundays I'm going to take all the toys away and put some camera gear there and so on. So
well, whatever works. I think I see some toys there, but no, it looks it's a nice clean look, I guess. And I'm here also got here. You guys can see I'm setting up my shelves. I'm actually going to put more shelves. This is my first ever feature film that I directed. Worked on other feature films, but not as a director. See my little vintage camera kind of setups and stuff, and I'm still working on it. Got this couch. For those of you who've been watching over like the last month, especially, you've been seeing how it's been evolving here. So I got the couch, kind of slowly setting up this little. This is part of my studio, but it's also nice to have this lounge. And here, just off camera, I have a big screen TV, so I can see everything. Can see all the camera feeds, and here I can switch everything. So if I'm doing it myself, hopefully I'm gonna have somebody here soon, looking to hire somebody, so that I have basically another person working dedicated switching, and then we can get a lot more crazy and have some nice cutaways and things like that. So we're gonna really want to kind of build up and make the show a lot more interesting and stuff. But I think the most interesting thing, or the way that we can make the show the most interesting, is by just talking about interesting things. So if you guys have any ideas, any things, leave it in the description of this video, or contact us through the website tomantosfilms.com, and just let us know. Let us know what you guys would want us to talk about. Maybe different topics, cameras, gear, film techniques, whatever it is. Just let us know. We want to kind of do it with you guys, and that's why we're taking your questions. That's why we want to, we always are happy when people submit their work and we can show your work on the show, all that stuff. So, but anyways, I guess, yeah, like Lucas said, that's it for today. We're gonna finish up, and that's it. Lucas, any last words?
Yeah, well, no words of wisdom. Now just enjoy your Sunday, or depending where you are. And yeah, thanks for joining us, and talk to you next week.
Yeah. All right. Bye, guys.